Now before we weave too far, we're going to have to pay attention to how far we have actually woven with our pattern sequence. So my pattern sequence started here on the first row of that pickup. I'm just going to pop a pin in there as my marking place. And so far I have woven up to here. So I've done nearly 6 inches so far. So that's my measuring spot. Now as I wind the warp on and weave more and more, I will just move this each time I measure, and then I will write down the measurement, and that way I will know how far I've gotten. And you'll see in your pattern notes that we are going to weave this sequence, this 2-block sequence, for around 49 inches before we finish off with another border pattern like we've done here. Now I've come to the end of my main pattern sequence. I want to put a border on the other end, and I want it to be the same as the floral border that we started with, but I want it to be in reverse so that it's not just facing the same direction as the other one, which would look a little bit strange. We want it to look like a mirror image instead. So to do that, I'm going to come back to my floral border notes, and this will be in your notes as well. I'll actually write out the reverse instructions for you just to make it more straightforward. But I'm going to start by having 5 inches of the light colour in plain weave. So I finished in the up shed there. I'm going to swap to the down shed now, and I'm going to weave 5 inches of the plain weave. We can also remove this pickup stick from the back now because we've totally finished with that pattern. We won't be weaving that one again. Then we come in with 2 picks of blue. And 2 of the light colour. Then we're ready to start working our floral border in reverse. We're starting back with the yellow this time. Remember, we're reversing, so following your instructions. Start back with yellow and follow with your pale colour in your next shed. So I'm not going to go through the whole floral border pattern again because we have already done that, but I just wanted to show you to start with how this is going to look in reverse so that you can get the idea for what we're doing here. So now we'll go with the next part of the pickup for the yellow flowers. So we follow up with 2 picks of the light colour. Now if you did any embroidery on the other end of the table runner, then you will need to repeat that on this end. And I'll be doing that in a moment, but I just wanted to go over the last part of weaving with you. Okay, follow up with our 2 picks of blue. To finish off the border again. And then we're almost done. Okay, so then we bring the lighter colour back in, and we're going to finish off with the 3 inches of plain weave as per your instructions. And as I said, the embroidery, if you're going to finish the embroidery, and then the very last thing to do, of course, when you've woven your 3 inches here, is to do your finishing hem stitch. And we want to do that just exactly the same as we did on the other end as well. After that, we'll be ready to cut and take off the loom, which is always a really fun part. If you are doing the embroidery, you'll need to be doing the zigzags the opposite way to how you did them at the other end, so that we can get that mirror reflection. This can be a little bit hard to get your head around, trying to think in terms of backwards or reverse, but here's a little tip. I've taken a photo of what mine looked like on the other end, and all I have to do now is turn it upside down if the phone doesn't flip itself, which it will. Yeah, let's try that again. It worked before. So I flip it upside down, and now I have a view of how my stitches should be running. So I see that I'm starting with pink, going down to yellow, back up to pink. And it kind of works anyway visually when you look at these, because they are the opposite to how they were at the other end. But if you start at the pink, whoops, then you're going to go down to the yellow, stitching through those squares as we did before. And if you need help knowing your stitch placement, just refer back to your photos. So I can see here that, yep, I went actually right down. So we'll go back. And I kind of went down to the second last row of the yellow. So having this reference here really helps. Okay, so now it looks pretty much the same. And I'm going to come out the other side, and I'll go back up to the pink on the second petal. I also need to do my little middle pieces here, the little strokes that I did in the middle to make them look more floral. So I'll be doing that as well. I should have done that first. Before the green, but I got ahead of myself. Okay, so I'll check back in with you very soon and we can see how this went. Okay, so I've finished weaving. I've done my hem stitch. I'm going to now cut off, and I'm cutting behind the reed just to give myself that extra bit of fringe, because I haven't really determined how long I want the fringe yet. So if I have plenty of length, then I have more choices about that. Okay. Now we just have to Release the brake and roll. Now something I'm going to point out is behind our border we have all of these tails here, and they're going to have to be woven in before I wet finish. So any tails you've got, needle weave them in before you go to your wet finishing. And when I get to this end, I'm going to undo the knots rather than cut them, for the same reason at the other end. I wanted to make sure there's plenty of fringe so I can decide how long my fringe is going to be. So to wet finish, all we have to do is immerse this in some very warm water with a little bit of soap. Any kind of laundry soap is fine, just not bleach or anything harsh like that. And also just check once you've immersed it in the water, just check that none of these colours are running onto the white. They shouldn't run. Red's one of the worst culprits for running. We don't have any red here. The green, it may not. So I'm just going to be extra vigilant for that. And then we just dry it flat in the shade or indoors or outdoors, whatever is your preference, just in the shade rather than in the sun. And you can give it a good press and then it's ready to go. And trim your fringe. Thank you so much for joining me in this weave along, and I hope that you enjoyed it and that you're really happy with your new table runner. If you like my classes, I would love for you to take a moment to check out my online weaving school. The link will be underneath this video. I set up my weaving school for weavers of all levels so that we could have some really in-depth classes and projects together. There are many different ways of taking parts. You can get a monthly subscription, a yearly subscription to all classes, or otherwise there's single class purchase available as well. So thanks a lot guys for all of your support, and until next time, happy weaving.